the messages that we wanted to convey to you. And to start now our first panel, I'd like to call Reinaldo Pamponet to open the panels of today. We invited Reinaldo because of his for his brilliancy, for his provocative way of being. And he works with social business, creative economy, and he is going to share with us a little bit about the ideas and projects that he's been working with, and he is going to instigate us into action. Good afternoon, everyone. I can see friends of mine here. Fiat, how are you doing? So I have to start it off by thanking. They spend some time thanking people, but I think it's important, the construction of the social good. Everything, we have to be grateful for things. I want to thank everyone, people. It's kind of, may sound boring, but it's not. I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'd also like to thank the invitation for being here, and I hope that we have very funny 30 minutes to come. Let's have fun then. When I was invited to work to discuss here social good, I have a serious problem because I cannot concentrate on only one thing. And we have always been accustomed to work on to think in a way just on one thing or on the other thing. And I heard about the complexity of bringing things together. And I think one of the challenges of social good is to integrate with what I call the good economy, because what sustains the social good is an economy that is geared towards this end. So there is no good in disassociating. We have to learn to put the plus in things. The name of the game now is not all or I, it's we. We've always been used to separating things, but now it's time for bringing things together. When there is a problem, we separate, but now we face the problem of bringing things together. That's one of the hardships that we have. We've been educated to divide, of differentiating each other, of try to become different from everything else, when nowadays we have to look ourselves more as peers, as more equal, and try to interact in a networked, connected society, a society that dialogues between people that are nothing else but with their own virtues, their weaknesses, their strengths, but people, human beings, ultimately. And again, plus, today we're living through an institutional crisis era. The institutions that were designed to satisfy the demands from the last century are facing an identity crisis. People are suffering, and the contemporary dilemma is depression. People are taking Ritalin, and older people taking sleeping pills to be able to sleep. So that means that our society is depressed. And what does this depression, where does it come from? It comes from the fact that we are really not able to show or exercise their force, their strengths. Institutions have overcome human strength. Today, human beings are no longer a human being. It's a karma. A contemporary symptom that I see increasingly is when we call somewhere and you say, "My name is Reinaldo," and they say, "Reinaldo from where?" And I feel like saying, "Reinaldo from Bahia." But in order to be answered or to be served anywhere, you have to present yourself as an institution, not as a person. And that is often repeated time and again. And what is institution plus people? It's not a bank that makes decision. It's the president of this bank that makes this decision. It's a person that has got parents, has got kids, brothers, sisters. He cries, he laughs. So that's an extremely difficult challenge. How can we give meaning back to people in an institutional environment, how we re-signify the role of people in the world. That is, we are living a fantastic moment because we are being invited to invent a new time, a new era. And then we always face with this question: how do we generate distributed wealth? I like to say distributed wealth. It is easy to generate wealth just by accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. But I want to see you potentializing society to generate distributed wealth so that everyone can take part in the economic construction of this world. Then comes this dilemma again. It's a very simple sentence, but it's worth practicing. Don't give just the fish, just teach somebody how to fish. You must have heard that 1,000 times. It always comes back to mind, but we have to understand that, really. What does it mean to give the fish? What does it mean to teach how to learn how to fish? What should we be fishing anyway? I participated in a seminar a few days back. Ricardo from Venezuela, and he's from Harvard, and he works in the impact investment. How do you invest to generate impact in place? And he gave us a very extraordinary definition in which we can formulate the way that we are dealing with this generation of wealth, and above all, to recognize what country we're in. He said, well, it's got this definition. What is wealth generation? Where is this wealth? First, let's think that wealth, it's like a set of letters in the alphabet, which are the resources that are available. And if we look to our country, there's a lot of resources. Even poverty for us to increase our market there is, but we are growing even less than the U.S. economically. What's interesting about this? You have the letters, but the letters, obviously we're talking about technology. Since we're talking about technology, letters are hardware. But where is wealth? Wealth is the capability of this society to create a repertoire, words using these letters. Then is when you really start having a space for wealth generation, the resources and the capacity to generate the resources in the generation of things that have a meaning for society. And if we are to look to Brazil, what is lacking? There is a lot of resources, but we don't have a full capacity to create a number of words with this vast alphabet that we have spread all around the country. Then this curve comes to my mind. I look at it every day because it's a curve from a era transition. We are going to discuss economic models. The optimists on call. I'm not saying that I'm not an optimist myself, but I'm trying to bring you a realistic view. They generally offer a cyclical curve that comes from one place to another. Never a possibility is projected in which, let me see if I can show it to you here. You have an economic order that goes into crisis, and the emergence of a new order, which is the underlying curve. It's the emergence of the new. This curve, it is the industrialized economic model of the unprecedented scale, which today, what's the big question of this curve nowadays? There's a scientific question to it. Environment has said the way it's going? Impossible, unless we have another 5 planets to support such economic growth. It's a way to use the natural resources to produce things of doubtful utility, but must generate the famous economic growth based on the carbonization of society. And we face lots of crises. We go from one to another. Money being invested, spent. The limit is set. Nature has set this limit to us. Society has also set this limit, but man is not respecting. What happens to this curve? It may come this way. People hate to think that way, but it can always get worse. A country that was on the cover of The Economist 2 years ago with the Christ the Redeemer taking off is no longer able to grow economically. That is the reality of our country. A country that is at full employment. Do we really want to become something different than we are, or are we satisfied with what we are? An opportunity here is great, in my opinion. Why is that? Because there is a new curve coming up. And what is the feeling we have today of this the state of unwellness? I can see a parallelism between these two curves. I see a new order coming up. But in order for the new order to emerge, there needs investment should be done. So we have the sensation that nothing is going on, nothing is happening right. The new doesn't come up and the old doesn't work. So, like Gramlich spoke in the last century, a new the old order agonizes and a new order is not able to be born. So this feeling that we are on the downhill curve, I feel that too, and I'd like to share that with you. But why am I saying that? Because in my opinion, we have a way out. And I shall address something that is fundamental, because those worlds are running parallel to each other. This world talks about sustainability, but this other world also talks about sustainability. But which sustainability is the one that this world speaks about, and which one is the one this one talks of? This world talks of social good as well, and so does this one. I have a great impression that a social good from this one is much different than from the other, and vice versa. Let's do an exercise here with the mobility issue. It could be urban mobility, and then we'll go back to the latter metaphor. What happens here when we talk about mobility? People will think about cars. Older people. That's what happened in Brazil. But what does the new world think? They think bicycle. We're talking about mobility. Let's discuss mobility here. The old order thinks we need to grow, so let's add an S for cars. We gain in scale. And the one down on the bottom does the same. Put an S after bike, and you got bikes. The one on top, let's create motorways, highways. Let's make cars able to go around more freely. The one under will mention bicycle lanes. And this is a very personal thing when we are talking about concepts such as mobility, sustainability, social welfare. We'll have to see that the repertoire, the words, the concepts, they tend to be different between groups. And we have also to recognize and thank the moment that we live in, because nobody who is in this audience, including myself, has lived a time of changing of of years, like we're experiencing today. So humbleness, humility, and openness from to play from one point to the other, or to interchange, is what counts. And the name of the game now is collaborative work, things that the digital world is already supplying us. And we are still crawling in its use, in the use of it. Remember the fishing. How do we create this repertoire? Where is the fishing part within our work? Our society that has very little on what to count in terms of natural resources leverage must come back to a natural resource that every one of us has in excess and does not pollute the environment, which is ideas, their capacity of thinking, capacity of creating. So where is the real fishing of this new economic model? It's within you. The connected net society today presents as a premise that is a society based on information, technology, and creativity. Where is it all? It's within you. And then we brought, that's my inspiration. I call myself I try to get by. It's a state of mind of trying to get by every day. It's try to get ready. You're getting ready for something that you don't know what it is. So you have a set of mind, a state of mind that you are aware that you have able to do the best with what you want, what you have. So when you count on what you have, you can. When you count on what you don't have, you cannot. And what do you have? You have your own self. Our way to look at the world has always been based on looking outside. You go for a job interview. Can you talk English? Yeah, a little bit. Can you speak Chinese? Well, not yet. They ask you a lot of questions that you don't know. They never go the other way around asking, what do you know? Where is your repertoire? We do the same with our kids' education, upraising. I mean, our ways should be much more inwards. The lack of economic sustainability goes through the individual because he is unorganized. He was not educated to trust himself or herself. We do not value the feeling we pay to have.
To have, we fell a tree, we carbonize it, we build something we can buy. And the society has an option. We are choosing all the time. We have this system and we are part of this system. I would like to show you some solutions, some ways out on what we've been working. How does this process of the so-called Sevirologia, which means getting by, getting along, making the best of it? First thing, you can do it. There's nothing wrong with you. Because when things get tough, you have to find a solution. And human beings are really capable. It's gorgeous. So it's something easy. So I say it's a state of mind. We just have to get conscious about it. We have to think, have an idea, put this idea into practice, interact with someone else, Because when you interact, you get connected, and from this interaction, you get some kind of feedback, so you will think again, you will have new ideas, you interact, and so this is a circle. This is the human being being constructed, being built, and here we have creativity, the capability of thinking, and this is our most precious thing, especially in this century we are living. I call this, or I say that this is the creative society. It's a creative society because it's born, it starts. It's a society learning to produce information. It's the information society. Then we have another moment. I have information. From this information, I produce knowledge. So we have the knowledge society. And then we move on. We create the creative society. We create solutions for the problems we have. So we have to invent the future we want. It's not going to happen alone. There are words like innovation, creativity, design. So the world keeps turning and we listen. We hear all these words. And we created a space, a digital space, where all these things can happen. And I would like to invite you all, please join us. Let's experiment with this possibility. Almost 30,000 people working with this new dynamics in all the Brazilian states, using their alphabets, their repertoires, trying to create a new world.
Você já pensou em lugar onde suas ideias podem ganhar uma força?
Did you ever think of a space where your ideas could get strength, where ideas are renowned and paid for? We are a social creative network. The more you create, the more you gain. Your reputation grows. Here, one click means R$1. And you can get money in many different ways. You might be asked for a creative call. Let's check out Bruno. He gets R$1 because of his ideas. He was invited to a creative call and could buy a new equipment due to collective financing, crowdfinancing. It's due to his ideas on one side, and on the other side, friends and other people who believe in him. What are we doing? In ItsNOON, we articulate ideas, people, and money. The ideas are there, the people are somewhere else, and the money in another place. So we bring it together. We connect who is capable on the technology side, and these are things that are doing good well. It's crowdsourcing. You generate solutions. You get ideas from people to create new things. That's the so-called creative calls. The crowdfunding, or collective financing. And the third, the economy based on people. It's the click and you get R$1. I'm going to explain how it works. Let's see one example. This is very encouraging. It's this boy, He lives in Congonhas. It's the city of Aleijadinho. I don't know if you know it. Sabará is a very ingenious boy, and he participated in one of the creative calls of the Telefônica Foundation, and he got 300 reais because his idea was so interesting. So he got paid for it. What happened afterwards? He does paint. And he went there and participated in another competition, the crowd, so-called crowd art, and he did it. He started to create his own business. He's a free agent. We heard this word here. So he had ideas. He was paid for his idea, got R$1 from one person and another real from someone else, and he started a collective business. He needed 2,500 reals. He had a dream to make an art exposition in Congonhas with the artist from the region, and he did it. 21 people supported it and helped him to implement it. And this is something also very important in the digital environment. You don't need billions of people. 1,000 came to my store, but nobody bought anything. So you spent a lot of money because 1,000 people went there. So it's much better to have 100 coming and 50 buying something. So now we are in a moment, in a phase in the digital environment. We have to qualify the things that are there. And this boy made it possible with his friends, with his crowd. They did the exposition. He is a free agent and learned to work in a network and keeps going on. He doesn't have to leave his city. He doesn't drive. He didn't take an airplane. The money circulated through the network, and there he created a prosperous environment in his city, in his town. Another interesting way, another interesting possibility, how can I create a digital enterprise? How do you connect these three things? My ideas, my projects, the people that can help me, and the money to fund it all, to make it happen. And this is the creative community. Let's check out this example. This is the cinema in São Paulo. 67 youngsters participated in the program, and they sold it to Coca-Cola with ads. The voice for the mascot for FIFA to be the most Brazilian. They produced a video and outdoors posters. These 67 youngsters organized their network, sold their project to Coca-Cola. They got 2,000 reais doing their video. The ones doing posters got 500 reais. They could do it from their respective cities, neighborhoods. How? Just thinking, using their head and participating. This is one example. One of the posters bought by Coca-Cola through this channel. So I would like to come back to this curve and provoke you a bit. And it's an invitation. Because we live in a moment. So this guy here said some things that weren't so nice. ItsNOON, this is English. It's the
onde
sun.
ninguém faz sombra para ninguém
12
e ninguém
o'clock.
rouba a luz de ninguém.
Nobody
Sol na cabeça, o
creates
sem
shadow on someone else,
Essa é a
and
visão
there's
que a gente
light
tem,
for all of us.
tá?
This is our
Essa
vision. That's
tecnologia nasceu
the
no
reason
Brasil.
of the name. This technology was created
quando a gente
here in
olha essa
Brazil,
curva,
and when we look at this
Vou fazer
curve,
uma provocação para vocês de novo aqui,
and I
forma
will
de como a gente
provoke you
pensa esse mundo
again,
novo.
how do we see this new world?
Essa curva a gente vê essa bandeira.
We see
O que
this
está de errado
flag.
nessa bandeira?
What's wrong here? What's wrong here?
O progresso
Progress.
está abaixo.
The progress is going downwards.
Já viram isso?
Did you notice that?
Quando a gente pensa nessa curva,
And when we think about this curve,
que bandeira é essa?
and which flag is that?
É o progresso para cima.
Here we have progress going upwards.
Então eu queria fazer um convite a vocês
So, I would like to invite you all.
para que vocês venham com a gente na ItsNOON, tá? Porque
Follow
se
us.
vocês seguem,
Check out
curtem as
ItsNOON.
minhas ideias, está na hora de conhecer
And
um
if you
futuro
like
novo.
my
Vamos
ideas,
começar a gerar
let's
riqueza
get to
distribuída
know
na rede.
another world, get to know
Convido vocês
another
todos a participar
button.
com a gente, foi um prazer.
It was a